In the spirit of the holidays, we're going to discuss the 7 core principles of the ISO 9001 Quality Management System standard. We're going to tie these to specific real-world scenarios, talk about where the specific clauses are within the standard, and then how we can actually turn those into a profit, reduce scrap, reduce downtime, some sort of actionable out of this. My name is Colby Hoyt, and this is a Hoyt Quality Consulting YouTube channel. So where we're going to take this is going from the number one most important core principle of the ISO 9001 standard and working our way to number 7. The reason for this is the number one principle within the standard is a driving force for the remaining actions and the remaining principles. So otherwise, if you don't have this fully integrated and fully understood within your quality culture, the rest of it is just paperwork. So that number one core principle is customer focus. Within the standard, this is identified as Section 5.2. It is also identified and discussed in Section 8.1.2, which is the requirements for products and services. And then later in the standard, it is identified in Section 9.1.2, which is the customer satisfaction, which closes a loop on understanding what the requirements are, your customer's objectives, and then making sure that they were happy with the product or service they'd received. An example of this is being halfway through a project and customer wants to make a tolerance change, a print revision, or have the scope of the service work redefined. And rather than just committing right to it on the phone, collectively looking with your team, getting them together for an impromptu or a scheduled meeting, and making sure that all aspects are going to be covered, from being able to measure it, being able to manufacture it, and making sure that we still can meet the project deadlines. This is a good summary of customer focus when it comes to being the advocate for risks and opportunities within your organization. So principle number 2 is a short second right behind the first principle. This is the motor of the driving force. We're driving for customer focus, but it takes top management, or leadership as it's spelled out in the standard. ISO 9001 is very clear. Top management, leadership personnel with authority and responsibility for the organization own the quality management system, not the quality manager, not an ISO certified rep, and not a consultant, such as myself. It is the organization that needs to build the culture of this. This is spelled out within the standard in Section 5, where leadership is a whole section, but primarily Section 5.1.1, which is leadership and their commitment. We create a quality policy, which is identified in the standard within Section 5.2, and then Section 5.3 is the organizational roles and responsibilities, as well as the authorities that are spelled out within the organization. So this could be change management control, as giving too much leeway to employees while they're on the floor to be able to make changes. So as top management could be heading in a direction for the organization as a shall intend, the employees on the floor are just changing things left, right, and center because they don't see the whole scope or they don't fully understand. And so that's where the roles, responsibilities, and authorities come in, and those need to be spelled out. A quality policy is a required item for certification. This is a commitment and policy that the company has to have, the employees have to be aware of and familiar with. They don't have to have it memorized, but they do have to be fully understanding of why the organization has this policy and what it's intended for. So this takes us in to principle number 3, the engagement of people. This is crucial to a quality management system because there has to be cohesion between the employees and the management leadership team within the organization. This, within the standard, shows up in 7.1.2, discussion of people. This also shows up in 7.2, in the competency of the employees performing the service or the tasks that they are required. And then section 0.3, which is the awareness, that they are aware that they have the ability to impact the company and the customer both positively and negatively. This can be the awareness of the quality policy and the understanding of it. The competency is being able to say, I'm uncomfortable performing this task. Or having an example of a machine producing a bad part and the operator identifies it. They then have two choices to say, either I can stop this, get my supervisor or somebody responsible for making the determination, or not my problem. In either accord, they need to be aware of how that impacts their customer, which is the next person in line, the organization, and the end customer who's making the purchase. Now, let's discuss principle number 4, the process approach. In the beginning of the ISO standard, PDCA ideology is discussed to be applied within the whole organization in the quality management system, not just as a project process approach. So as we discuss this, within the standard, it is referred to in 4.4, which is quality management system and its processes. We have section 8.1, which is operational planning and control. And then 8.5, we have product and services provisions where it's discussed. So here's an example of how this applies in this principle. It is talking about looking at the process and not the person. Every Monday, we have a morning meeting. Let's discuss what deliveries were late. And as we can point a finger and say, well, shipping didn't do this or production didn't do this, it is taking away the silos of the organization and looking at the flow or the step-by-step approach that each part of the organization contributes. The example could be product wasn't produced off the production floor, so we were having to scramble. There was an aspect of product review and ensuring of compliance when it comes to the quality department and inspecting the product to ensure that it meets the customer expectations. Or there could be a process change which leaves multiple versions on the shelf, causing confusion. Looking at the 8 ways, this is how you can improve your efficiency and look at your process, which hits the bottom line directly. If you can take away time, efficiency, and improve customer satisfaction, this is the greatest approach. So it's never looking at a person or a department to be at fault. It is looking at the whole flow of items from start to finish. Oftentimes, doing a spaghetti diagram and following the product all the way through, or a control plan, process flow diagram to ensure time studies and seeing if everything is balanced. These aspects truly help make a lean, efficient quality management system. So as we were just discussing the elimination of waste, that's making an improvement. This is actually principle number 5 within the ISO standard, improvement. Within the standard itself, it is section 10, but it is also referred to in many other aspects, such as section 9.1, which is measurement, analysis, evaluation, as well as section 9.3, which is management review, and referring to the key metrics that the organization sets, which is another required principle within the ISO standard to become certified. So improvement it's a pinnacle of evolution. The only thing constant in an organization and in life is change. From 5 minutes ago till now, something's changed. And if we can chip away at minor improvements and allow employees to have the authority or the responsibility and the engagement of them to build this culture where they're allowed to make these improvements, obviously within a certain threshold, we have to apply that change management procedure that's discussed. But this is where we can actually move the needle and we can see the results of the change following a plan, do, check, act approach. Create a program, a process, and track what it does. It doesn't have to be formal initially. It can be conceptual, and as long as there's some sort of documentation that ISO requires for a process, you can show these improvements over time. Obviously, it may help now, but you have to have your cohesive team of different departments review what the changes are to ensure that nothing is missed, because we often do get into a tunnel vision of what our responsibilities are without having a broader scope. So ensuring that management and leadership, again, are cohesive on what these changes will be, being able to track them and monitor them within the key metrics, that way we can see, do they have a positive or a negative impact? So we're just talking about making improvements and giving employees the ability to bring up ideas or make small changes to help improve. But all of these have to come based off around principle number 6, which is evidence-based decision making. Whether this comes from quantitative data or qualitative features within the process, management and employees have to engage in a cohesive thought process so that all aspects of the process, from the employee's day-to-day items that are identified versus management's overall arching goals are aligned. So again, this comes as an example of, hey, our machines are full to capacity. We need a new machine that's going to cost us $500,000 to increase our productivity, compared to collectively coming together with leadership from different aspects of the organization as well as day-to-day employees and looking at how we can get more of the juice from the fruit and squeeze out 20 to 30% more efficiency. Starting with a time study. Hey, we're only running at 70% capacity. Even if we get to 85 or 90, we still can prolong that large capital expense. This is just one example of applying risk-based thinking and reviewing what actually is happening, observing it with our own eyes as a team, and identifying step by step in the duration that it would take. So for the first 6 principles, we've discussed aspects within our organization that we can control. Principle number 7, relationship management. This specifically discusses vendor-supplier relationships with your organization. The reason for this is because they can impact your ability to meet the end user or your customers' deadlines or committed agreements just as much as your own processing. Within the standard, this is discussed in section 4.2, which is the interested parties, including vendors or for products and services. You have section 7.4, which is communication, fostering and growing open communication and finding out what the best way to communicate with your vendors are. Sometimes they may be in the other parts of the world, so there are different platforms that we have to use. Or we have to use an interpreter or special technology to help foster that and ensure that there is no ambiguity in between that relationship. So that is an aspect. And then we get into section 8.4, which is control of external processes. So we may have to purchase product from a vendor, or maybe services that we can't perform within our organization, such as plating or machining or some aspect that is a service that's performed. This comes into play as we need to hold them accountable as we have a purchase agreement or control of the products that influence ours. We don't want to incur any additional waste or risk into our processes. The reason these 7 principles are important is because it allows us to build a controllable process within the organization. We can foster a good relationship with our vendors. We have controllable inputs with expectable outcomes, and then we can monitor and ensure that we're meeting all of the customers' expectations and that they're satisfied. At a high level, that's where these 7 principles come in. This reduces scrap, which hits the bottom line. This reduces the overburden of day-to-day firefighting when we control and have a repeatable process on quoting, engineering, documentation review, product setups, product inspections. All of these are aspects that the ISO standard has clauses for to help improve your organization. If you're interested in consulting services becomes ISO certification ready in as little as 6 weeks, there's a link in the description, as well as a link for a Q&A session, whether it's clause specific, whether it's principle specific, or just quality management services Hoyt Consulting offers. Like this video, subscribe if you want to be notified when it comes to new videos and new publications. Otherwise, enjoy the holidays. Thanks for the time.